So for years I told people that this was my favorite Dark Tower book ever. Now, after reading it 17 years later, yeah, that still holds up. Okay, so technically it's tied with The Gunslinger, and for certain reasons and in certain ways, The Gunslinger is actually my favorite book kind of all time, but there are reasons. Anyway, hush. But where are we at? So, just right up top, this far into the series, at this point, these are all just spoiler filled. So if you haven't read these, please God, go. I hate to send people away because I have no viewers anyway. But yeah, don't watch this if you haven't read the book, or at least duck out a little early. Moral of the story is, at this point in the series, we're on book 4. There's no way that I can discuss anything without spoiling something. So there you go. Also, flashback warning. If you were looking for like some big epic continuation, I mean, considering that this is a chunky boy. This is a 900, 800, yeah, pretty much a 900-page book, at least in paperback. So, like I said, if you're looking for some epic continuation of the story that you got a cliffhanger of in the last book, yeah, you're not going to get it. You will get they will finish that for you. No, you'll get your resolution to that. But as far as continuing beyond the resolution of that, you don't get that. You get a flashback, and you get like a 500-600 page flashback. It's a long, chunky, long boy. But that being said, it was what I was ready for. It was what I wanted. It was what I was looking for back then, and reliving it. And it's just, my God. And then, although, hold on real quick. That being said, these books were written years apart, and it's amazing how you can go from one to the next, being The Wastelands and Wizard and Glass, and they are so tight and so cohesive. Not just the fact that they literally slot together because of the cliffhanger ending, but when they do slot together, it feels like something that was literally written in one go. The two books were it feels like they were written as one story and then cut in half and just released separately. And that's not how it was. They were written literal years apart, but they feel so tight and so cohesive. He's just good. I mean, at writing. There are points in this series where Gunslinger felt one way, the Drawing of the Three felt a different way. You know, there are points in this series where the books feel not disjointed, but they feel like they have a little life of their own, and they occupy a certain space in the universe or in his storytelling style. This isn't the case. I feel like these two really feel like they slot together shockingly well. And there's going to be characters that come back. The end of this book, after the flashback, you get some people from the last book. You get some thoughts and feelings and themes from the last book that get recalled. In the end of this post-flashback, the parts that aren't a flashback in this literally feel like a continuation of the thought process from the last book, and it feels like that thought process never stopped and didn't take a 7, 8, 9 year break, whatever it was. I should really start looking this stuff up before I record. Anyway, I write down quite a bit of notes here too. Surprising amount of notes here. And my notes are real coherent. And unlike the video for some reason. I don't know how that is. And they're right here as I'm talking. Anyway, so when we get to this book here, so what do we want to discuss? What should we discuss when we discuss Wizard and Glass? Do we discuss the world building, which just keeps getting better with each new layer that is added or piece of the puzzle that we get? Actually, yeah. I mean, at this point, we have witches and magic crystal balls that are all functioning within a Western setting storyline with a Romeo and Juliet thread that runs throughout the whole thing, with tears in reality that manifest themselves as physical objects in the form of these thinnies. King has officially built something here, and he has built something that is so next level that I find it difficult to put into words, and I feel like few people could have put together or have put together worlds and realities and multiverses on the level that he has put together, and it's coherent and it's cohesive and it makes sense. It works on a level that I don't think few people could have ever achieved this. Really, honestly, it's very impressive. Should we discuss the storytelling? We probably should. It's literally a series of in-world tropes that he has built and developed for his world. The speech, the way they talk, the high speech, the way the characters interact, the way the world functions, the odd shifting of a world that has moved on, the stopping for palavers. And then those are mixed with external genre tropes from the rest of the world. The coming to a western town from the three boys who then meet three outlaws. The town is run by the three outlaws, and the three boys are going to have to go up against the three outlaws. But the three boys are run by a gunslinger. The one of them that's actually a gunslinger. But the three outlaws have a leader who's also a gunslinger, but he's a failed gunslinger. He took the trials and he failed, and he was sent west. So we have the boys versus the men, but the boys have a true gunslinger. The men have a failed gunslinger, but the men are older, more ruthless, and more experienced in just life and and this is going to come to an epic showdown. You know, these are all tropes. And then he takes his in-world tropes, the ones that he has built and developed for Midworld and how he wants it to function. He has his tropes. Then he takes all these other tropes that the world has built for a millennia, and he literally mixes them together, shuffles them together in a way that you think, yeah, this couldn't possibly work, right? Oh, but it works. I mean, and it works astoundingly well. It's just mind-boggling how well it works and how excited you get as you're reading it for this to play out, because he's adding things and he's pulling from here and he's pulling from there, and he's just putting it together in just the right way. It feels like it shouldn't work, but it does. And then you believe it. And you shouldn't. You know you shouldn't. But it feels, you believe it because it feels real. It feels real on a level that other stories can't manage. Stories that are more based in realism don't feel as real as this does at times. I don't know. Speechless. That's what I am. You know, and that's what got me when I read this the first time 17 years ago. It was that. It was the world building. It was the storytelling. It was the excitement. It's the action. It's all of that. Everything that I just described. That's what got me 17 years ago. That was where I was. That was where my head lived. And it's just as exciting today as it was 17 years ago. But on reread and reading it this time, maybe it's because it's my second time through. Maybe it's because I'm a little bit older. I don't really know, but when I was reading it this time around, something else came into focus. And it really encompasses the whole series, not just this book, but it came into focus on this book for me as I was reading it. And I thought about waiting to the end to discuss it, but I'm sure I'll have plenty to discuss when I get to the ending. And we're already in spoiler territory anyway, and I'll try not to really talk about the later books. But the idea really encompasses the whole series. And that being that this is a personal story. This is the story of a man. This isn't the story of saving the tower. This isn't the story of saving the world. This isn't a story of saving all of reality, which it's presented as, right? On the surface. But that's not what this is. This is the story of a man, and not only a man, but an extremely broken man. And I know that's how a lot of stories are set up. It's like, this isn't a story about saving the world. This is a story of the journey and the people involved. I get it. I understand that that's really kind of how all storytelling on a certain scale actually is. So it doesn't sound like some revelation that I'm having here, but this one is different. This one doesn't even bother telling that tale. Whereas the other ones will tell, the tale of saving the world or the fall of this, but it's really about this. This one doesn't even bother telling that tale. It mentions the fall of Gilead. It will mention the Battle of Jericho. It will give you all these little nuggets, and it'll tell you what, the important things that you need to know, but then he never gives those to you. But what he gives you is this other story. What you get is a small glimpse into the past of a broken man. And you get a glimpse at his childhood and the one ray of light that happened to him in his life. And this one ray of light that he continues to carry with him and reflect on in his existence as he continues to go round and round on his journey. And then that story, which contains the light that he so fondly remembers even now, that story ends with a lover burned and a mother slaughtered, and a deep-seated addiction that will haunt him for the rest of his life. And that is just the beginning of what will become this man's suffering. For me, this book's a 10.